I want to buy a copy of Bone Storm. Here's 99 cents.
Allow me to summarize the proposed transaction. You wish to purchase Bone Storm for 99 cents. Net profit to me, negative $59. Oh, please take my $59. I don't want it. It's yours.
Welcome back to the Thinking Critical Comic Book Podcast. It's time for Slabbed Raw episode number 3, the comic book collecting podcast. We got all the normal guys with us here today. The co-host of Slabbed Raw, just Pele from Parts Unknown. How you doing, Pele?
Oh, it's beautiful here in East Tennessee. It's just absolutely gorgeous today. I'm just trying to get my shit together here, and we've got some interesting topics. I've got some new stuff to talk about with CGC, and we're going to just let's do it live. Let's do it live.
We're doing it live, baby. Next up from Berkeley, California, we got Uel Carter, one half of the team behind Fantastic Comics.
That's right. My brother and I own a store in Berkeley, and you can find us online. Fantastic Comics. Really glad to be here and looking forward to today's topics.
Last but not least, we've got the man with quite the man cave. He's got so many comics, he has to put them in filing cabinets. Long boxes just aren't enough for Doc anymore. How you doing, Doc?
I'm good. We're still talking about my man cave, but I thought this was episode 4.
It is 4. Is it 3? 4? It doesn't matter.
Who
We did a
cares?
dry run initially, and then this is the third official episode.
Third official. Okay.
That was like the one shot before the regular series.
There wasn't a name yet. Yeah, there was no
issue
name.
is the one shot.
Yeah. But this is the third official episode, and we've got some interesting stuff. There are problems. If you were a comic book collector and you have that comic book that you need to get graded, you're hoping maybe to flip it in 3 months while the value is still high. Pele, people are going to have some problems no matter what service they use right now. What the hell is going on?
They're just bombed, man. I mean, the comics have exploded to the point to where none of the grading companies are going to be able to keep up, and CGC's one of the worst off right now as far as being backed up. CBCS is backed up, PGX, even the smaller tier, which still good companies, probably the best one of the smaller tier, EGS, they're backed up right now. So you're looking at, if you don't do the express, if you don't do the any of their express services or pay to have it done more quickly, you're looking at probably a year, 9 months.
How much is an
year.
express service for CGC?
That's $10 per comic, but you're gonna be looking at 6 months instead of a year. So
it's not all that expedited.
Yeah, it's.
And I don't even think it's. I think it's maybe. It's not even 6 months. It's probably like if it's a year for them, it's going to be like 9 months.
Yeah, well, they're telling people 180 days. Mm-hmm. And it's like that's probably being optimistic. And I just, what's the alternatives here? What do you think, Uel?
Well, going back just a second for those of you that don't know about it, recently CGC changed their grading, or not their grading, their pricing. And everybody at the last minute was trying to get all of their stuff sent to CGC at the previous price. Yep. So not only have they been backed up anyway, that's really caused a lot of it also. And what is the alternative? Being willing to sell it raw, if that's what you're looking to do. Mm-hmm. I've seen lots of outrageous prices as if something was slabbed. You have to obviously be probably a store or somebody super respected or doing shows. That'd be the other way, where someone actually could come up and take a look at your thing. But if you're waiting to get it slabbed, wait. That's unfortunately what you're going to probably have to do, or just send it in and see, Yeah.
But the prices on Raw Comics are rising. They just haven't quite caught up to the slabs.
It's going to happen, though. It's already happening. What happened was one of the things that caused Raw Comics to rise so dramatically not too long ago is people didn't know better. They saw Go Collect and they said, "Oh, well, this comic is worth this much." They didn't realize that there's a difference between slabbed and raw pricing, and so they started asking a lot more, and you had ignorant buyers. I'm not trying to to say that in a defamatory way, but they didn't know, and card collectors and such that started buying at those much higher prices without consulting the other price guides, and so we saw a rapid increase in raw pricing, and this is only going to push it even higher, even faster. So
Doc, what kind of risk are people taking if they decide they want to send it in to get it slabbed? They have to wait a year potentially to get the comic book back.
Yeah,
or they could go sell it raw for a little bit less money to some people that maybe aren't aware of the difference in the grading systems.
Yeah, I mean, you can always, look, regardless of the backup, you can always take advantage of ignorant or foolish people that are unwilling, that are willing to part with money that's too much. That always happens. But you have a larger pool of them these days. I would say, if it was me, I'd say risk selling it raw, honestly. Especially if you're dealing with something that you think is hitting near the peak of its value, I would not take the risk of waiting a year. I mean, you could be totally wrong, and the peak might not happen for another year. But if you're right, if you think that you're hitting peak value and you're trying to sell at peak value, don't take the risk on waiting a year to get your book back from one of these grading services. That's just absurd. Sell now, sell raw. And honestly, even if you're already taking a risk, you're gambling whenever you send it off there, unless you're absolutely certain of your grading skills, and you were grading even harsher than CGC was. You might be able to sell at almost 9.6 or whatever your grade is, price raw, without actually having to take the gamble that CGC grades it lower.
Yeah, there's a lot of I've talked to people who are in the card selling game who've gotten into comics, and man, they've been burned. And I'm just thinking, a lot of those guys though, they're getting really nervous around buying raw comics. So I just trying to think of one alternative is, if you really trust your comic book guy, your store guy, you can get them to grade it for you. But the problem is so few store owners, in my experience, so few store owners know how to grade comics. Mm-hmm. They're just like, this is fine. And, it might be, it might not be, and I've seen a lot of them, and this is near mint, and there's like half a dozen spine ticks, and, there's a dog-eared page, so it's a crapshoot out there. There's really no good, clear solution on this.
What's a grading from a comic store owner going to be worth on the open market if you're trying to sell someone maybe across the country that doesn't know your store owner?
Absolutely nothing.
That and that and $5 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
But they can give you an idea of what it could be.
Yeah, it could give you an idea of what it could be graded. And if it's a Metropolis, or if it's Tropic Comics, or if it's somebody like that who's respected as a retailer, maybe you could get around that. Say, okay, I got this guy at Tropic Comics. Here's his signature, and everything, and he says that this is near mint, and that could be worth better than nothing.
But at the same time, I don't see a lot of stores being willing to actually put their name on something, because then when somebody says, well, this is not what it was,
liability involved.
Yeah, there's a liability, and it's not like they're selling the book. I mean, maybe if you consign it to them and they sell it for you, then
I know if you go to my comic shop, they have a grading scale that's different than CGC, and it tells you exactly what near mint, very fine, and all that, what you can expect from your comic book. But it's much more generalized.
Yeah, that is a great alternative right there. Is what I was going to touch on. My comic shop. I shop at mycomicshop.com. If you can't get it graded, you don't want to wait a year, you want to be able to sell it, they're about as close as you can get to getting it slabbed and graded and not actually have it slabbed and graded, because they will grade it, put it on their store, and they will have a grade on it.
Yeah,
and they'll say, this is near mint by our graders, and they have really good photographs and everything like that of the comic, so you can kind of judge for yourself. So
but
that's
you're paying consignment. So now you're splitting money with.
Well, you're paying for grading too.
You're paying for grading, and you're splitting the sale price with a retailer. So I mean,
the one thing I'll say is that, like, case in point, there's a lot of Shopify stores out there. If you went to the Fantastic Comics one, you just go to the comic, and you can actually see a pretty high res scan of it, back cover, front cover, staples, pages and stuff like that. So you get at least, if you have any kind of grading knowledge and you can get a good scan on something, you might be able to make an informed decision and also not have to worry. And plus, it's my store. I don't want people, bad mouthing it or anything like that. So if I put a fine plus on something, you could probably guarantee it's not gonna be a good.
Yeah.
It's going to be at least a fine plus.
Exactly.
Well, I bought from you, and honestly, I thought that the books that you sold me were undergraded, if anything.
I tell my brother that you can charge more. You can always charge more, but if you get that grade, like if you say it's this and it's worse than that, that's a bad thing. So I like to shoot a little lower.
One of the things also you could do if you want to sell it on eBay, specifically on eBay, that I've seen a lot of reputable sellers do, is not give the precise. What they'll do is they say, well, I'm sure that this is in the fine range, or I'm sure that this is a mid grade. Say low, mid, high. You've got 3 general grades, and have really good pictures, and you can tell the seller. You just tell the buyers, judge for yourself, and then you price it according to what you think it is, like it's a very fine or VF plus, and maybe have a make offer. So that's probably the best way to deal with it if you're selling online, if you're going to sell on eBay. But even then, it's you may not be extracting as much value as you possibly could out of it. But that's kind of where we're sitting right now.
So, Pele, I do have a question. There are a lot of, like, on eBay, you can go and get, like, pre-graded 9.8s of a comic with a rare cover that hasn't released yet. You can pre-order it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it still going to be a year? Like, do they have a deal that they've already been pre-graded?
That's the dirty little secret. That's the dirty little secret. They have contracts. CGC has contracts with these people, and they are going to get their books graded and out according to what their contract is. And when they say, okay, we're going to have this in 30 days, they're going to have it in 30 days.
Okay, so there's no new risk involved in doing that.
Right. Those people, they're going to get their books when they're supposed to get their books. And if they don't, then CGC is going to be breaking contracts. So, and these are the big resellers. Mm-hmm. But Mile High, probably a few others that also do stuff like that. They're getting their graded books when they're supposed to. And is that fair? No, but
if they have a contract,
they have a contract. So CBCS does the same thing.
They're paying for the access.
Yeah, and also if a lot of people that are getting their books signed by the artists and authors, the writers, and they're saying we're having a special signing on such and such at CGC. You're probably going to get yours back faster than if you just did a submission, because they're going to have the graders on hand that are already reserved for that function. So,
yeah, the vendors that have those agreements with CGC, that's one of the reasons why CGC, CBCS, and all the other ones got into that arrangement, was because it's guaranteed money.
Right.
I've seen sellers that offer subscription service, like a 9.8 subscription service,
right?
Where you might be like, you pick a title that you're buying, and you get every issue, and it's guaranteed to be a 9.8 in the slab, like a month late,
right?
A month after release, and you're guaranteed to get it, and you get it every month. So if you wanted an entire run of, if you wanted to start today with an ASM run of 9.8s, you can find sellers out there that have contracts, and that's guaranteed business for CGC, CBCS. That's, hey, look, we're guaranteed to get 200 books a month from this, vendor, another 100 books from this vendor. That's kind of, that's guaranteed money, and that's, businesses with guaranteed money, they are never going to turn that down.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wes.
So Pele, just thinking about it. So if you want to send your comic book in, potentially looking at a year wait, we're seeing these cycles as far as peaks. Not seeing a lot of valleys. I imagine we will see some in some certain key areas. Like, what kind of risk is there now? Because the cycles seem to be going faster.
Yeah.
Like, you might go in you might miss a rise, decline, and be on another rise by the time it comes back.
Yeah, that's it's a lot of the same thing we see in crypto. It's like there's a risk by the time that by the time you place your order in is already dropping again. It's that's why I'm telling people, a lot of the modern, especially the brand new comics that are flashes in the pan and stuff like that. Those are great and all, but if there's the risk is so high on those, I'm just asking people if it's worth it. Should you stay with the tried and true? Should you stay with the older keys, the Bronze Age, the Silver Age keys? Those are the books that, although they're hot right now, they're still going to have a lot of value when they start to decline. It's even if there's a pullback of 20%, those books have still risen like 100% in the last 18 months. So you're still going to see a return. And even if you're not looking at it from the reselling, point of view on that, it's very hard to say that a person is catching a brick by buying a 9.8 of,
Marvel 2-in-1.
Yeah, well, of even like, say, a Moon Knight 32.
Mm-hmm.
It's, first appearance, it's not,
Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night 32, I was thinking. But, Werewolf by Night 32, first appearance of Moon Knight. Are you catching a brick buying it by the fair market value right now? Could be for the short term, but, you could be overpaying 10%, 15% off what it's going to come when it starts to retrace. But 5 years from now, it's going to be worth another 50% on top of that. Mm-hmm. So, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and buy those books that you really love, that you really want now, as long as you're not paying a price inflated to today's fair market value. Mm-hmm. If you're looking, though, a lot of sellers, though, are doing a really sneaky tactic where they're saying, okay, well, I'm projecting this book is going to be worth $5,000 next year, and it's on the fair market value on it's $3,000. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get that value in 5 years right now. So they're jacking their prices up through the roof.
The reason I buy it for you now is so I can make that money later.
Yeah.
For you two.
They're trying to get that money.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, just ignore them. Just don't even consider it, because, it's by the time that you do start, seeing the point where it's fair market value, what you paid, we got to wait 10 years, 20 years to sell it and get a profit. That's ridiculous.
It's like putting your comics up as like when you're trying to get a bank loan or something. Sure, you can project out a little value there because it's going to be a long-term business agreement. Yeah. This is a buy now situation.
Right. Yeah. And and they're doing it, and just avoid them, because that's, avoid all those predatory sellers like that. And if enough people avoid them, they'll learn their lesson.
It's almost starting to feel like Raw is maybe the place to be, even though the prices are raising a little bit. At least you'll still have access to your comic. You can flip it if the time is right, because once you send it into CGC, it's gone. What are your thoughts on that, Uel?
Well, yeah, we've been talking a lot about people selling comic books, but there's the people that are buying comics. And actually, I was thinking whether or not... So my thought is this the time that if people are going to be selling Raw, we have to go out there and buy those books right now. Hopefully they're not like jacking up the prices too much, like you were saying, Pele, You know, assuming, well, it's not raw, or it's not slabbed, but I know this book's worth a lot of money. And in addition, it's going to probably be worth a lot of money in the future. So I'm going to really jack up the price. Doc, you buy raw comics online sometimes.
Yes.
How do you feel about buying raw as opposed to CGC?
Honestly, I prefer it. In many times, I trust my own grading better than the seller's grading. I trust my, I don't want to pay the CGC surcharge, as I like to call it, like the CGC tax.
The premium.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 40 or $50.
Yeah. I mean, there's a tax basically where you have, and now it's me putting my knowledge up against and my judgment up against the seller's judgment. And I also get a better deal. I'm not paying once it's hit CGC, once it's hit CBS or CBCS, CBS, you lose there's no more objective, or there's no more subjective,
there's no wiggle room.
Yes, there's no wiggle room. It's decided. It is a objective grade.
And the importance of that Pele is because once you buy that, the reason you're paying more for that is there's less risk. You know exactly what it is, and you know the exact condition. And it was graded by a reputable resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
if
the
you
value.
got an eye for a good deal, you're good in a good spot. But if you want something that's the real deal, you got to pay the premium for the less risk.
Yeah, the most important thing that you can learn in comics is grading.
Yeah.
As far as collecting is grading, and learn grading. Get the Overstreet's Guide to Grading Comics. Buy it. It's
a great book.
It's cheap compared to what you can get it used for $10, off Amazon, and just
throw it on your shelf.
Yeah, read it cover to cover, study that thing, keep it as a reference. Yeah, it's got pictures, and it's got pictures of really great comics in there too. So, but go ahead. Doc.
No, I mean I'm not a gambler. By nature, I don't play cards. I don't go to the casinos. But I think
you're
everybody. No,
you told us about your strip club endeavors
on Saturday.
That's not a gamble.
That's a gamble, all right.
That is not a gamble because I know that they are there to part me with my money.
Yeah, but there's other things involved, Doc. You never know what's going to happen.
Well, that is a good point. But
that's leaving the house, right?
Yeah. That's pretty much any time I leave the house. But I think everybody has that little bit of a gambler in them to some degree, and my way of getting that gambler out is with buying raw, because I am essentially gambling with, and playing cards with a seller and with the market and trying to win. Most of the times I win. Yeah. Most of the times I win at least a little bit. Sometimes I lose. Sometimes I lose big. And sometimes I've won really, really big. So I like it. But I know that it's a gamble, whereas I'm taking all of the gambling away when you buy when you buy Slabbed.
And
especially when you're buying online. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, raw, it's a huge gamble because, like I've mentioned before, seeing books that are graded 4.5 and they look like very fine, you're like, why is that? And then, it's got jelly sticking two of the pages together, or there's, a water stain that you can't really quite see in photographs, but is very clear when you have the book in person.
Or there could be a new way to alter a comic book to make it look better than it really is. If you don't have that keen eye, you don't even know that it's been altered.
Yeah, well, that'll have restoration. That'll have a restoration tag on it, probably.
That's what I'm saying. The raw comic might be restored.
Could be restored.
If you don't know what you're looking for, you might not know it.
Precisely.
I'm waiting for sellers to start photoshopping their own pictures.
Already happens.
Scans.
Already happens. It's horrible. And I got one of those not too long ago, where the stress, the color breaking creases on the spine, stress lines, and somebody had went through and just color touched them out.
On the picture, on the scans, or on the book?
Yep, on the scans.
Oh, on the scan. Yeah.
Yeah, like so.
Good move.
Yeah. All right.
That's rude. That's a rude thing to do.
And I got it, and I'm like, this is not the same book. And then I looked at it real close, and I'm like, it is the same book, but they changed the photographs.
At that point, why don't you just go on to My Comic Shop and do the this is a stock photo thing?
Yeah.
I'll say this about My Comic Shop. If you don't agree with their grade, and this is many years ago when I did this, it was very easy to just send it back and get the copy that you were asking for.
Absolutely.
And I don't hate them at all.
No, I got no problem with them. I just, they use stock photos for books, and I've seen
Not
eBay
expensive
sellers.
books.
No. If they're selling you a specific book, like this copy of this book, they will show you that book.
Yeah,
but for their regular grading, like
For Green Lantern 42, you're getting a stock photo.
Yeah.
Well, no. What it is $10 or less. If it's less than $10, if the book is less than $10, it's a stock photo. If it's $10 or more, you get the photo. You get a photo of the cover, front cover. If it's $25 or more, you get a cover. You get the photo of the front and back cover.
Well, that makes sense. I should tell my brother to do less work. Let's keep him working.
Yes.
It's just it's one of those things where it gives it value. That really gives My Comic Shop value too, because I think that maybe that's the route people need to go. Unless you really good feel strongly about your grading skills, just avoid eBay.
I can tell you right now, I've ordered comics from My Comic Shop here in the Philippines. It takes a long time for them to get here, like it does everything else. But they wrapped it impeccably. Everything showed up in remarkable shape. And the one time my package did not arrive, it was actually returned to them. I had no problems at all. They refunded me all the money, and I got a credit.
Fantastic.
Where I could go and buy other stuff.
They are
I sent
good,
other people
reputable
comics in the U.S.
Yeah. They're a good, reputable company. Some people have had issues with them in the past, but I've never had problems with them.
Really? Yeah.
Usually they undergrade. Usually they undergrade dramatically on books, if anything. So, go ahead, Doc.
No, I had one minor kerfluffle with them a number of years ago with just a shipment that just kept not shipping, and like eventually they're like, "Oh shit, sorry guy, we found it. It just kept getting missed. Sorry, it's shipping now." That kind of crap.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Do we have anything else to say about all the delays and what you can do in the current market with working with that?
If you're slabbing something, you're gonna have to wait. So make sure, like Pele and Dok pretty much said, make it a key, something you really want to get slabbed, and you don't care about what it's going to be worth when it comes back. What are your reasonings for doing it, and then send it off. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, if you're slabbing for resale right now, don't. If you're slabbing
that was the point I was going to make. I think this might be the end, or at least temporarily, the end of the fluke, just quick rising new release book that people try to flip in short order from release date. Like they get it, and they know that it's just it's a shooting star, but it's gonna come back down to earth real fast. Those kind of fly by night or one hit wonder books, getting those graded and flipped real quick, I think those days are pretty much done right now.
Right now, yeah, they are. Yep, agreed.
All right, so there's other things happening right now. Last week we kind of got into collecting comics. Should you be doing keys? What should you be doing in the meantime with the skyrocketing prices? Doc, I know that you personally have taken your own approach. You're a collector of the comics you want. You want a complete X-Men run. That's your number one priority. But in the meantime, if you see an opportunity to get a hold of a key at a price that you think is worth it, you take those key opportunities and strategically buy keys as well. But your priority is on the complete run.
Yes. And, for a long, long time, I just kind of dumbly would only buy the books that were really interesting to me. Even if I saw something that could make me money, I kind of ignored it because I'm like, well, I have an extra $200 right now to use, and I could buy and fill in more holes in whatever my collecting focus was. Or I could buy that, maybe flip it in a month, get $400 back, but that would delay my continuation on buying books. So I might make a profit or a serious profit on it, but I'm like, I'm not really that much of a reseller. I'll vend from time to time, but I'm not that big. So for a long time, I would only focus there. But I found that, it's really helped me, because I'm basically no longer spending my money on filling. I'm spending other people's money to fill holes by making profits on other books, on other things that, and there's sometimes that I just find stuff that I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. I wouldn't mind having that in my collection.
A hologram cover. This thing looks great.
Sometimes, yes.
I'm 12 years old again.
You know what I'm a sucker for are those black variants. That's no picture at all.
Yes.
So that someone will draw on it. If it's black, I've got to have it.
Well, that one with the Amazing Spider-Man after 9/11. That was
36.
Got a few of those.
Wow. Yeah, I buy every single one that comes in practically, as long as it's near man.
Yeah, they're hard to find in grade. Those ones with the solid black covers, man, those are always hard. That's the same. It's one of the reasons why I bought up 2 copies of like the SpiderMan Deadpool like #1 6th print, because it was an all black cover with just the Spider-Man Deadpool logo in the middle, but all black. And I'm like, oh, this one's going to be hard to find in grade eventually, but it still has no value.
Is it like the Metallica album where it's black and then you get the matte black logo? No, you can kind of see it, or does it have the actual logo?
It has the actual logo. It's not like Death Blow #1 where it had like the matte black on the glossy black on the matte black and the raised texture or anything. Death Blow #1 is still one that I love just because of that.
Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, it looks sharp. Yeah,
it is. It's kind of dope.
Yeah.
But no, like I found that, kind of mixing that kind of hybrid. I know a lot of people that are out there that they just want to buy keys. Mm-hmm. They're buying keys because they're looking at it as strictly investment. And that's awesome. You buy your, Action 1 or your X-Men 1 or your AF-15 or your Tech 27. You buy them now. 10 years from now, it's worth double what you paid for it. You can sell it. You'll get hit with some capital gains on it, but it also ends up being great collateral for any loans or whatever you're doing. People go that route all the time, and more power to them. But I'm in comics a lot of times to read comics. I love reading comics, and I love the stories that are in the runs that I'm reading. So I want the entire run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're a completionist.
I am.
If you're doing like a collection of comic books and you're trying to impress me, your shelf porn comic books, it's not going to be with just keys.
Yeah.
I want to see.
Who's your favorite character? Do you have all of it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be all of it. It just has to be like, this is what you dig, And it might be 10 issues, or it might be like the whole run of like Byrne's Fantastic Four. And I don't know, that's when I really am impressed. Do you have only the first 25 Spawn, or did you stick with it? That type of thing.
Yeah. I'm a massive series collector. That's all. I don't care about just buying keys. I mean, I have more keys. I have more copies of keys. It's like, okay, look through here. All right, you've got, I'll be looking through your my Tomb of Dracula run. I'll have 2 #1s, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 5 copies of number 10. Or something like that, I'm just I think I have like 5 copies of number 10, but and then like a couple of number 15 because it was this origin issue, and then but that's I'll buy a large quantities of the keys because I just like having them.
Now, is this Pele the store owner or Pele the comic collector?
Me. Okay. And yeah, I'm obsessed with high grade keys as far as, but I'm they're a part of the series. I don't just buy comics because this is a key issue of this. You know, I like to be a completionist. So what really killed it for me reading completionist is the same thing it killed it for Doc, with all the stupid variant covers out there.
Yeah, especially when you get into the high ratio ones.
It's just
Like,
got
was
to
it
be
1
too
in
much.
1,000 got you, right, Doc?
Yeah, it was like the 1 in 1,000 and like 1 in like 2,500 and 1 in 5,000 or something absurd
Gold.
like that. Yeah, red, gold, and blue. I just said "fu" to both of them, and that was the end. But no, like no, you guys have a good point though. Like you'll, if it's just a key collection, it doesn't really impress me that much because, okay, great, you have a museum in your house. That's awesome. I mean, that's cool, but it'd be like going out and finding a bunch of random assortment of different things from some period of time you liked.
Right.
It's, here's a crown and here's a sword and they were all owned by different people. None of them had anything to do with each other.
If you don't have your own suit of armor, it don't mean nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Built it.
Yeah.
Then you like it.
Well, you go to like people, like you go to this person's house and you look at their bookshelf, you're trying to, or their record collection if they have that. And it's like, well, they have, that Metallica Black album, but do they have the early stuff? Do they have the later stuff? We're always gatekeeping a little in our minds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Slotting people's collections and comparing it to yours. I haven't seen that in a long time. And, you're influenced by that.
Yeah. Is your record collection like every printing of, or like all the first printings of every Pantera album? Or do you only have things that have hit number one? Or you have only their greatest hits, or do you just have like a collection of things that hit number one on the Billboard?
Right.
Like who cares? That's just Billboard stuff. Do you like any actual bands? Do you like any actual artists?
Right.
I don't feel like people love music unless they have an artist or a musician or a band that they just love.
Yeah, a lot of people are like that though. They like what's popular, and they like it's like in comics. They like the keys because the keys are in demand because they're popular and they can show them to people and get a reaction. But I'm more impressed by the guy that has a full run of Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. And it's like, oh, you got the whole run. You've got the whole run of ROM, Micronauts. You've got the whole run. I mean, God forbid somebody actually has a red run of Commandi. It's like
a red one,
a red run,
a well-read one,
a well-read run of Commandi, or Forever People.
There's
not
over
just
40 issues of Commandi.
It's huge. How, but it's funny to me that it has evolved to that point. To where. I've got an ASM 300. Have you read it?
Mm-hmm.
No.
All right, speaking of reading, Pele, what do you do for reading copies? If there's been a reprint, I imagine that's your reading copy, but there's been no reprint. Do you just look something for a decent grade at a decent price so you can actually read the comic book?
I read it anyway.
Do you read the 9.8? Well, obviously not the graded one.
Yeah, the ones that are
slab.
slabbed. If they're slabbed, no. But I have cracked a lot of slabs though, and just cracked them. Just so I could actually read the comics again. My Batman #1, for example, is slabless. Although it's been graded. Because I wanted to read it.
Did you wear gloves?
Well, yeah.
I don't want your oils all over that Batman one. What are you trying to do?
You're not getting
cotton gloves. I've got my white cotton gloves that I'll wear still. But I read them because my FF. One of my FF #1s is CBCS 5.5. That's my reading copy of FF #1, and I've had it open probably a half dozen times since I bought it, and I've looked it over, and I love the ads. I love to read it. It's.
Why don't you just scan it? Read it on your tablet.
Or just buy the digital.
Nothing beats the smell and the touch.
You are right. Yeah.
It is just intoxicating.
This was in an old diner. I can smell the cigarette smoke and coffee.
You know, there was a video going around like a year or two ago of a CGC grader going through like an Action 1 and just like really quickly flipping through the pages, and some people were like, "Oh, this person has no care for what they're holding," and then other people are like, "Wow, look at the confidence with how they're turning the pages," and and I'm like, there's a time when you're like, "Oh my God, I'm holding a really expensive comic book." And now, it's like, well, I press these.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. I can just flip through them and no big deal. I love it.
If you're experienced... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Doc.
I was going to say, I'm about to do an entire process with this expensive ass book, adding heat and pressure and moisture and everything to this thing. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm sending out an Action 1 though. I'm not doing it myself.
I pressed Action 1 and Detective 27 on the same day.
Woo!
And
you also
first.
removed cat urine from a comic book once. That was disgusting.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, it's you gotta do.
Well, that's
what
a
you
little
gotta do.
easier to deal with when something's so horribly ruined.
Yeah,
I don't feel like I'm not going to kill it.
But yeah, I mean, it's just it's a situation where it's just experience. You know how much pressure you can apply in certain ways, and and if people that are nervous around comics, like, oh my God, it's an Action number 1, and their hands are shaking, they're more likely to damage it than somebody who's been there and knows how to handle these books. And they're confident in themselves.
You know who would be confident in themselves around Action number 1? My 2-year-old.
Yeah,
be like, cool.
I'm not confident.
Start tearing that thing to shreds. He don't care. He destroys everything. It's awesome.
but yeah, I was just sitting. I was sitting there, at my desk, had my gloves on, and I was sitting there reading, Detective 27, and I'm like, how many people have done this? Yeah, right. In the last 50 years, how many people have done this? This is like, oh, this is cool.
They're all behind a case too.
Yeah. And and I was enjoying it because they're getting that particular book and the Action 1 were getting slabbed and probably never to be opened again in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to experience it, took photographs and experience it and stuff like that. So, it's the love of comics. If you're only buying just for the value, then you're missing it. Yeah.
I would have wrote Pele was here, just so everybody knows.
Invisible ink right there.
Hey, I got a copy.
No.
I got a copy of Hulk 181 that was coverless, that somebody did their math homework on like above the picture frame on the opening page where Wolverine's jumping out of the bushes at Hulk and Wendigo. Their math homework is up there in pen.
Was it correct?
Read it?
Yeah, you can still read it.
Was the math correct though? That's the question.
I never bothered to check the math. I figured their teacher probably yelled at them for doing their math homework on a comic book.
Should have.
But
comic books in school.
So that's how I do it with my keys, either reprints or I'll have reader copies, like very, very, very low grade.
That's what the dollar bins at a comic store is for also. There's a lot of thrashed Bronze Age comics that are out there for
Mm-hmm.
$1,
Yep.
But you asked, I do get the True Believers and stuff like that too.
Oh.
And I put them. One thing I do is I'll take like the book comic and I'll put the True Believers on the back back side of the comic of the original on the other side of the board. That way I can But go ahead, Doc.
Well, no, I was going to say, but when it comes to strategies, though, honestly, I would say my favorite strategy that I've really started doing a lot more in the last couple of years is buying everything that I think is of good value, selling anything that I don't immediately need to keep in or want to keep in my collection, using that profit to fund filling in my runs.
How's your X-Men run coming? You got to be close by now, right?
I am down to under 50 total books to get complete 1 through 600, including reprints and variants.
Awesome. Including variants. Wow.
Including variants.
So you're doing the 68 to 93 X-Men also?
I already have that one done.
I was just, the reprint.
No, those I'm very close. Those are actually where most of my missing books are at this point.
Oh, I see.
Because I have 10 through 55 complete, most of 1 through 9. I have 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You need a 3 and a 4?
I need a 3 and a 4. And
is there a minimum grade that you're going to get on those?
No, not necessarily.
You just want to have it.
Low grade's better than no grade.
Yeah, low grade's better than no grade.
That's a good subject. That's a good topic for a discussion.
We'll do that soon.
And
I love that one.
But so I will use those. I mean, so most of the missing books at this point are in that 67 through 93 reprint era. That's where most of the missing books are for me. And actually, you know what though? At a con earlier, about a month ago, I found a vendor that had a shit ton of them. So I did fill in like 9 books in that section. I'm like, this is great. I bought like 1 book that was outside of the reprint era from him. I bought a 6 from him.
Is there an app or anything you use to keep track of what you need and don't need for your run?
Yes, I use the CLZ app.
Yeah.
It's the collectors. It's collectors with a Z, but the shortened name for the actual app is CLZ. It's great. It's a little expensive, but compared to a lot of the inventory management things that I've seen over the years, those things are like $90, $100, and then they still sometimes have yearly memberships. This is like a $15 app and you get the first year membership free. And even if you don't keep the membership, you could still have access to their cloud storage, their database. The only thing it loses is like Go Collect integration.
Yeah.
That's all you lose. You could still add books. You could still manage your collection. You can.
Well, what if you lose your phone? Do you have to go inventory it all again?
Nope, it's stored on their cloud service. So all you do is reinstall. Say you break your phone, or you get a new phone, lose your phone, whatever. You have to restore it. All you do is reinstall the app, log in, and it will literally download your. Now it's going to take a couple of minutes if you have a big.
It'll take a while.
Yeah, like whenever I've had to do that, like it'll take like 20 minutes or so to re-download my like 11, or I think there's like 13,000 books or something in my total inventory. Now, granted, 3,000 of those are on my want list. You could set up a collection list, a want list, stuff that you have for sale, stuff that you have already on order that you've already bought but just hasn't reached you yet.
You can put that way
you can throw your grade in,
copies,
how much you paid for it, where you bought it, when you bought it.
We're not trying to.
This
CLZ ain't giving me no money for this.
Comic Book Realm is also a good alternative on that, because CLZ doesn't work really well with Android phones. It has issues sometimes. It's kind of a little buggy, I found. So until they get that worked out, another good option for Android phones is Comic Book Realm. I was going to say CBR, but that has a bad connotation to it. but comicbookrealm.com, great. They have a great price guide, as well as the integration with the app and online services.
But it's a lot more expensive.
And no, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
It's like $150, but granted, it's lifetime.
Yeah, you can get it by the year.
Okay.
Yeah, you can get it by the year. I think it's $15
We'll do a whole
a
collecting app episode.
We should do
$50 versus 15.
I think we could go off on this.
Oh yeah.
So Doc, when you finally get this X-Men run done, Where are you going next? You going to ASM?
I may go to ASM, but I also may do something that I think might be really, really dumb, and that's go to making sure that I have a copy of the newsprint and a copy, or the newsstand and a copy of the direct for everything. Now,
that sounds crazy.
I haven't separated into that yet. I mean, unless it is a specifically different variant between the newsprint or the newsstand and the direct, like say Wolverine 50 or X-Men 50, where there was the foil cover and the not foil cover, or there's other books where Uncanny 316 and 317, where it has the foil little banner thing down the side, or it just has the red ribbon for newsstand versus
what was
direct.
that Phalanx storyline or something like that?
That was during the Phalanx story. But so, things like that I've distinguished between newsstand and direct market, but I may get stupid and start saying, okay, well, I already have newsstands of all these early books. I have kind of a mix of them in the middle, in the 80s and early 90s, and I have mostly direct market for later. Let's get the newsstands from later and the directs from earlier, because why the hell not? And I like throwing money away.
Yeah, it's definitely more exciting. The best run I have is Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps, because I love Robert Venditti and Green Lantern so much. What's your coolest run? What are you working on?
Probably, well, see, this might. I found that as I collected comics as a younger reader, and even now, I'm all over the place, and I never fully. It's just like my collections of anything. I've got like D&D books. I've got action figures. I really have to start thinking in this time of my life to finally figure out just one thing I want to like really make good. But I'm trying to collect 100 consecutive issues of SpiderMan from like 151 to 251, and I have quite a few of them, but I'm doing it for grade, and there hasn't been conventions lately, so it's, every once in a while I'll buy something online, but I don't always work towards it. And then of course I've got X-Men and all this other stuff. Like, I'm just trying to get all the rest of the burn ones I don't have of X-Men. And every once in a while, it's an odd book. Like, I want to get all the drug issues of Spider-Man, where Harry was going nuts, and a few keys that I'm personal
you're
keys.
more about story arcs rather than a complete run.
Right. Well, I'm kind of. I guess what I'm really trying to do is recollect the comics from my youth that I don't have anymore, and then all the ones I never had, because I'm scatterbrained. as this explanation of my collecting should pretty much tell you all. But I'm doing 100 consecutive issues of Spidey, and I'm filling in my burn run, and then anything else is just S&Gs right now.
I want to get a complete run of Valiant, like everything that they ever put out in the early days. It's eminently doable and certainly economical for me to be able to do that. The only things that kind of get expensive are Exo Manowar. Mm-hmm. But I don't have a lot of access to back issues, so it's taking me a while.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I've been this last year and a half also. Finally, in August, the Berkeley Comic Show, which is no cosplay, one artist signing, and then the rest is just vendors that sometimes come from other states. And I'm really excited to go out and pay $50 for a comic, looking forward to it.
All right, Pele, let's make these guys look like fools.
No, it's gonna be something a lot of people don't expect. I love my Classics Illustrated set. I got a full run of Classics Illustrated, first prints. That took a long time. I really enjoyed that. About 22 issues away from a full Dell 4-color run, and I've got 3 more issues left on the EC Comics complete EC Comics run.
Holy cow!
And
you have both of the big boy variant covers though.
On
It's like the first comic with ever a variant cover. There was one cover for the East Coast and one for the West Coast. It had Big Boy on it.
Yeah. No, I'm not worried about it.
It's like from the 1920s or something crazy.
Well, it was from the 50s, but yeah, it's nutty. But no, I'm not worried about. I'm not worried to that extreme. On the ECs though, yeah, I'm not really big condition sensitive on those because I kind of like. I think that horror comics look cool when they're a little roughed up. You know, when they're a little dinged up and stuff like that. You know, it's they seem to. I don't know. There's kind of an appeal there to me to have lower grades on those. But those 4 colors, some of those are almost impossible to find. And my detectives, my detective 1 through 1000 run. That was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed putting that together.
So you have 1 through 26.
Yeah, that was hard.
That's the stuff that DC was going to collect in an omnibus, and then was like, "There's some stuff we shouldn't read."
There's some sketchy stuff, you know. There's
all that Slam Bradley I want to read. There's
a lot of stuff in there, and you know, the Detective Comics #1 cover is problematic right now. So you know, it's one of my favorite comic books of all time because it's just really cool. You know, it's got a really cool story in it, and it's super rare. But that's probably, you know, of all the main run comics, stuff like that, the Detective 1 through 1000.
That is the biggest run that you can do. So we're coming up here on the last hour, or on the 1 hour mark. Pele, is there anything that you've seen just as far as developments in the market that we didn't cover today, or maybe some keys that went up in price that you didn't expect, or just some last things you wanted to cover before we wrap this up?
I'm seeing softening on non-big keys as far as pricing goes. You know, it looked like April and May have been the peak. You know, as far as the peak in what we're, you know, and it kind of blew the top off of it. Maybe the guys who are spending so much money either A, ran out of money, or B, kind of got a wake up call. You know, that they're going a little overboard on it. But I've seen the prices starting to soften, not on the huge keys, but you know, mid range and lower. Not condition, but lower status keys. They're starting to come down in price.
First appearance of Miles Morales isn't going to stay up in the stratosphere too much longer?
Yeah, that's a book that's softening a lot right now. It's where we were, you know, seeing like insane $5,000-$6,000, you know, copies of, you know, first prints of UF4. You know, that are starting to soften. They're starting to come down. The raw copies, you can get one now for pretty decent price, around $700 to $900. So, and that's going to keep coming down because it's not a rare book. And but you know, just wait, be patient. I keep telling people, be patient on a lot of these books because they cannot maintain where they went. They cannot maintain where they've been going, and sooner or later there's going to be a flattening, and then there's going to be a retracement. You know, 30, 40, 50% on a lot of books. So just wait. I think
it will happen with Miles Morales, though, fully, because eventually there's going to be another cartoon, and then probably there will be the introduction to the live action version.
Right.
And that should see some increase, right?
Yeah, that's when the next bump will be on that book.
Mm-hmm.
But until then, it's going to keep getting softer and, you know, slow down and stuff like that. And
the problem with a book like that, Pei, like you were mentioning, it's not rare. It's too new to have gone out of circulation and only have pristine, you know, a few pristine copies left. So there's value to it because of the character, but it doesn't maintain, like the implied value isn't like the same as something that was released 20 years earlier with a, you know, similar or even smaller print run.
Correct. Yeah, you start, like, say, take First Appearance of Sabretooth. You know, that's a book that's hard to find. You know, Iron Fist number 14, it is hard to find in high grade.
Shut up, I need one.
And it's legitimately hard to find in high grade. It's a book that I think is still undervalued. but people aren't paying attention to it right now, and especially the
That's not
price
Moon
variant.
Knight.
The 35 cent cover, I think is still undervalued. So, he's not Moon Knight. He's a villain. Villains,
No, I'm just joking.
He's a villain. And villains don't go up as high as heroes typically. So,
First appearance of Joker.
yep. Well, Batman number one. That's
Batman number
Talking
one.
about the top-notch guys,
But-
Green Goblin.
First appearance of
stuff.
Shredder. TMNT number 1.
yeah. You've got some some villains, but they're usually tied to heroes. And so it's a situation where if you are patient, you're going to find the pricing that you want. You just don't need to follow the trends. Don't buy when other people are buying. That's so key. Blue Ocean strategy. Follow Blue Ocean strategy. Look it up on Google.
Yes. You got to make sure that there's actually some rarity to the book. That's where the value really is generated from. Also with the notoriety of the character. If you don't have both, you're paying for things that aren't actually available with the comic.
Desire, though, is a big thing, though.
Yeah.
If I want it,
That's how you get a bubble.
Yeah.
It's like the Billy Ripken, baseball card with the thing written on his bat. It went up to $400 for a couple years. Guess what it is today?
I think
$3.
I think that the whole I didn't think it for a long time, but I do think that the comic market on the whole was just too low. The pricing was just too low for the rarity of some of these books. It really was. And for a long time I was like, no, they're not. They were never that far undervalued. We've just got speculators. No, I really believe that they were undervalued considering their scarcity.
I'm getting pissed with all of my years of selling back issues.
Now here's the thing though, when it comes to while you're seeing softening some places, I mean, X-Men 1, a 9.6 a 9.6 just sold for $709 or $702,000 yesterday.
Yeah.
And honestly,
exceptional rarity.
Yeah, but I still think that that's undervalued.
Yeah.
A 9.6. I mean, especially when you look at some of the
comics like that'll never go down. That's the thing.
But there's like 2 of them.
But it might not.
Or maybe 4. I don't know.
You might spend $700K, but it might not hit 800 for a long time, and
it might hit the other copy may go up for sale when it hits $2 million. You don't know.
But Disney's gonna make that X-Men movie eventually, and
it's gonna be the mutants.
Whatever it's called, and they better not do that. Whoever that 700,000 person's like, you don't change that name. Do not change that name.
I think, and you can quote me on this, on giant size X-Men number 1, 9.8 with white pages is going to cross $250,000 whenever the X-Men are officially released into the MCU.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, and if a damn Marvel Spotlight number 5 first appearance of Ghost Rider can cross $250,000.
This is it. This is the recurring thing.
Then I know it's there's a lot of copies
as Nick
out
Cage
there.
is playing Wolverine, you're right.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of copies of Uncanny X-Men of giant size number 1. There's a lot of copies in high grade out there, but the demand is going to just dwarf what's available. And you're going to see it grow crazy. But I'm saying the softening though is on the mid range and in the lower range keys. I'm starting to see a softening there. And will it extend out to the big keys? I don't know. It depends on if the MCU crashes and burns. There's a lot of variables, a lot of moving parts here, but
still a good book though. X-Men number 1.
Yeah, just
I
wait.
Like mine.
Yep, just wait. Be patient. Wait.
This is a patience one, yeah.
All right, fellas, we got anything else to talk about this week's Slabbed and Raw? Or are we putting this one in the books?
I think I'm about done.
Yeah, I'm good for
We'll
right
be good.
now.
Over an
I
hour.
got a lot more stuff to talk about later on. I've got topics coming out of my ears. But if any of the listeners, viewers out there, you want anything that you want us to talk about, let us know. We also like to get your collections. We'll put them up on the screen. We want to see what you're interested in. We want to know what you're interested in, what you want us to talk about.
We want to judge you.
Harshly. No, we're not. We're going to celebrate with you. We're going to celebrate your collections. Yeah. And we are going to have
a full
guests.
collection of Looney Tunes. We want to see.
Absolutely. Scrooge McDuck first appearance. Go do a Google search on that. Recently sold. It's insane what it went for. Go out and look for it. But
Doc books are Doc books, though. They've always been crazy. They're weird.
Yeah, there's some really, really passionate duck collectors out there. So but yeah, just let us know, and we will hit up any topic that is legal to discuss. So
what's the word on the Instagram thing?
I just got to make the account, or if Doc wants to make the account, one of us needs to make the account, and that way we can start posting stuff up on there. So I was a little busy for the last week, so I'll have a little more time coming up.
Not me.
Hopefully it'll be live soon. I wouldn't trust Doc. You never know what kind of.
We'll get that. I'll get that rolling now that I've got a little more free time. Now.
He's been in the script club too much.
As long as he gets his shots. As long as he gets his shots, he's okay.
I want to say thank you very much to everybody. We'll see y'all next week, and have fun collecting comics. And what are your thoughts? Definitely let us know in the comments section about what you're collecting. How do you collect your runs, and all the good things we talked about today.
Don't forget to bag it. Keep it clean.